Welcome back to the show, everybody. We got more good news for you today. Not only are we talking about the Ripple private fork and the fallout, the implications of that, which are incredible. I'm going to propose some questions to you and thoughts today that really consider what it means that there is a Ripple private fork being used by central banks. And guess what? We got breaking news from Ripple. 15 new contracts have been signed during the SEC lawsuit. Guess who it's with? Let's roll that beautiful intro.
This is Digital Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Subscribe for new content notifications. Now, here's Brad Kimes. Come on in.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. You can follow me on Twitter at BackupBradleyAbove at the top of the screen and everything that we're talking about here today. Yes, that's right. XRP is 46 cents, and I believe it will be used by the central banks of the world. And you're about to, too, because we're going to walk through that information that says it's not a belief. It's happening. 46 cents, 0.467 cents. We are looking at the range right now between 44 and 49 cents. If we can get above the 47-cent mark and remain there, we'll turn that resistance line into support line, and that will be big for us to move on up in the price and the chart. Let's go quickly through this right now to get what we need to today. This is from XRP Crypto Quebec. Thank you, my friend. Facebook Diem coin that has been rebranded from Libra. White paper now recognizes the regulatory authorities by saying Diem's features will be based on regulatory approvals or other considerations. Now listen to the arrogance of Facebook. In the early first launched white paper from Libra, they had said regulators will need to bend to Libra. Yeah, that didn't go over so well. To the tune that it went so poorly, they had to rename the project from Libra to Diem. That's how bad it went. So looking here, this is another exciting moment here from Steve Gulbranson. Shout out to you and Joni, my friends. Sologenic to release its XRP ledger-based decentralized exchange before the end of March. This is remarkable. Look, it's a reminder here that this is a global decentralized exchange and a global decentralized asset with XRP. And this is exactly what we're going to see 1,000-fold in the coming months and weeks and years to come as the entire space develops. Now, let's move quickly because we got a lot to go over. Here's the big catalyst, or at least one of the indicators that points to the catalyst. We had a liquidity global crisis in the economy, globally speaking, well before the pandemic and the deliberate shutdown of the economy because of the pandemic. And here we see now from Rod Hop, a Hall of Famer, 10-year Treasuries borrowing rate in the repo market goes negative, indicating stress. The repo market very quickly is the overnight lending market and the wholesale back end for banks. They lend to one another because they have to have their balance sheets balanced before the next business day, and they borrow and lend to one another in the overnight market. They have closed that out for us to see what's going on in the overnight repo market because it had gotten so bad that the Federal Reserve had stepped in to cover the spread of banks not lending to one another, which is another huge indicator that they recognize more than anybody there's a pay-to-piper moment coming to this economy and this global crisis we're in. So keep an eye on that as a catalyst. I think all of that is really the backstory of how we're getting to this new digital age. Now, Ripple compares XRP to oil and diamonds in response to the SEC's amended complaint. It is a very good analogy, which we've talked about here on this show a lot. And I personally believe XRP is a currency. I'd like to see it ruled as a currency or a convertible virtual currency or something of that nature would be the best case scenario, I believe. But we will see how it goes. But they did put out a response to the complaint from SEC, the amended complaint, and it is just one page after another of an amazing rebuttal to the argument made by SEC. I just don't see anything other than a settlement happening out of this. Now, as a reminder, through all of this with the SEC lawsuit, XRP has appeared to have kept surging despite the lawsuit and everything in its path. The XRP community believes that the SEC case against Ripple may not be that strong to withstand, and that it really is the truth. And we know that because of all the things that we pointed out about the 7-8 years they've gone without pursuing them. They've allowed other entities and partnerships like the MoneyGram partnership with Ripple, knowing full well that they were going to source liquidity through on-demand liquidity and use the digital asset XRP for settlement. The SEC never stopped that partnership with MoneyGram. We also know that exchanges, probably like Coinbase, sought out the SEC to find out if XRP was an unregistered security because they wanted to list it. They didn't get any response that said, no, you can't do it. They listed XRP and then turn around and try to sue. We know that that is just such a weak argument. There's going to be problems there. But let's look at this from XRP Yo-Yo, the technology of retail central bank digital currency. You can see right here, these are the diagrams we used to look at here where you see DLT-based or conventional central bank infrastructure. Well, we no longer have to guess because Ripple is piloting that private version of an open source public XRP ledger that allows central banks to create and manage digital currencies, enabling global interoperability. You can reach out to them and get involved today if it's applicable to you and your business. This is a question of Mickey B. Fresh, who put forth and said, what if that private ledger was in fact Polysign? They did say in their early days of not launching, because they haven't really technically fully launched, but they did say in their early inception that they were supporting a full spectrum of digital assets at Polysign, and they were able to scale to trillions under management. They do go on to talk about the fact that they're able to provide institutional custody and so on and so on, and this could obviously be in conjunction with this private ledger that's built on the XRP ledger open source technology right here. Now, let's move on because we got a lot. These are the things that Mickey B. Fresh had shared, and I shared this in the morning video, but just briefly going to go over this. Polysign, who has been building blockchain, private blockchain with the highest level security and compliance. Polysign has been implementing components of Stealth for years: identity, key wallet, authentication, privacy, private ledgers, not only for just central banks, but their account holders and banks and custodians alike. I just want to show you just a couple of these really quickly here. It says here, right here, leading architects Arthur Brito and David Schwartz designed Polysign's technology engine, securing digital assets. Third generation proprietary private blockchain technology is. And here is where I want to take you next, because, okay, it may be Polysign involved in the private blockchain for the central banks, and maybe it isn't, but we'll see. But listen to the thought here of Brian Brooks from his time at the OCC, and I'm going to take you through some information here, and whether you've heard it before, I think it would be wise to stay with me through this. I think you're going to like where this goes. Listen to what he says here.
And so, again, I come back to the idea of that presents regulatory challenges. Now, there are a bunch of solutions that I've heard people talk about on this. One would be, imagine a world where there was a central government blockchain and all other chains sort of connected to it. And the government blockchain allowed the government to make its own changes. And as it saw errors in the code or discriminatory features, it could simply go in directly and fix them. I mean, that
sound a lot like what we just got told to us about the private ledger. Because it does to me. It really does to me. I got to be honest. And that to me is pretty powerful, but it doesn't stop there. Listen to what Miguel Villas had said last year.
Really the real rush here from interest, with respect to interest of central bank digital currencies. The idea has been around for a while. It makes me really happy to hear Brad say that there's progress and that they're moving forward, because it did feel like the interest in that had kind of waxed and waned over the last few years. So that makes me happy. And look, even if it's a private fork of the ledger that's only validated by the central bank, that's still a huge vote of confidence for the ledger and for the underlying architecture. So that's like good stuff.
And that is Miguel Villas, the former head of XRP Global Markets and responsible for building more than $1 billion worth of liquidity in the asset XRP. Yeah, he's a big deal. And he will forever be really, I guess, remembered as taking them to that pinnacle position to be where they are able to be today. There's just no way that, this works without the efforts that he made in his time there. Now, looking at this quick clip, and then we're going to go through some information collectively. So bear with me. I'm level setting for everyone. There's 400 to 500 people that join the channel every day. I want to make sure they understand, see these things, even though it may feel a little bit repetitive to some of you. Hang in there. We're going to go through some ideas that I haven't shared with you yet, any of you, and I want you to hear them. Here we go.
Private temporary blockchain between two banks.
Private temporary blockchain between two banks.
It's cryptographically signing the transaction, holding it in escrow and releasing it at the same time, so you never have a situation where a transaction doesn't complete.
All on an escrow from an escrow that's settled at the same time. So, what's to say that we don't know that there is an escrow already allotted for this private blockchain that's built on the XRP Ledger open source technology? What's to say that, right? First of all, we know that they chose the XRP Ledger because we understand that it is the best tech and innovation out there going. It's scalable, it's secure, and the interoperability factor is bar none the most key component, as is the interoperability of the internet. They understood this in the early days of creating XRP. Now, when I look at this, one of the big things to understand is it is no longer speculation at all. Central banks are in fact in bed with Ripple and the XRP Ledger. Now, my philosophy has always been, and it's not financial advice, I'm stacking my pennies next to their dollars, and I will continue to do so until I see otherwise. Well, in just a moment, you're about to see that the central banks and banks around the world are doubling down. You know, we don't know if the private ledger is Polysign, but it would make sense that Polysign would be involved, knowing that Arthur Brito and David Schwartz are in fact the co-creators of that ledger. One thing is very certain to me is that the world is in fact waiting for the United States, or otherwise they would already be using XRP. The big question here that I want to share with you is this, and then I'm going to hit you with some breaking news about Ripple. One, in the lawsuit, it clearly says that the SEC is well aware that Ripple also undertook to achieve its goal, widespread distribution of XRP, by exchanging XRP for non-cash consideration, that is pre-allocation, pre-contractual agreements, such as market-making services. And if you see it as money, then you understand that that is seigniorage, and that is the ability to incentivize a person in a certain industry or market to begin to use the asset and to move away from the direct path of payment and to move to a new bridged path of payment that ultimately will begin to serve them as we see the adoption take place and the benefits that are felt not only by them, but that they can pass on to their consumers as well. So that is the SEC's admission that we know that Ripple has been successful in getting widespread distribution of XRP. That is a fact. It is in the SEC lawsuit, and it wouldn't be there if it wasn't true. So SEC understands the magnitude of what's going on here. And what is the magnitude? Well, the magnitude is, ladies and gentlemen, is that they have a private ledger for central banks off of the XRP Ledger open source technology. And that's why they're suing Ripple and not Dogecoin. Now, what's to say that this private ledger with central banks is not already piloted? You know, it's not unusual for companies to have already back tested and tested these things before risking public humiliation if it fails or has some kind of major issues or bugs. There are shareholders and partners to consider. And if we understand that the announcement publicly of a pilot program of this private ledger is in fact already been tested, and I certainly believe that it has, and I don't think that it's a very thin limb to walk out on, then wouldn't it be just as easy to make the assumption as well, or to speculate just one step further than that? So if we understand that they've already publicly or privately tested this ledger, and that they're announcing to us that they're going to begin doing this publicly, and I believe me, make no mistake, I believe that Ripple let that announcement come out so they could add more weight to getting a settlement and some kind of judgment before going to jury trial. And you're about to hear some more breaking information of what Ripple has been doing other than responding to this lawsuit. But if we understand that they've already piloted this thing, can't we also go the next step and say to ourselves, I bet you that if they've already piloted this, the central banks are well aware, they are well aware that this is the tech they're going to use because they're doing it now. And I bet you anything, they could even have their own amount of escrow for this private fork. And for all we know, they may be working with XRP right now inside of that private network with a private allotted escrow for theirself. And they may be working with XRP at an extremely high price right now. That's right. While it's 46 cents for us, it may be hundreds or thousands of dollars inside of their private fork right now. Don't believe that. It could be true. What I do know is that nothing is stopping Ripple from what they're doing. And how do I know that? Because this is breaking news from DJ Peter Bass, that just happened. Ripple signs 15 new contracts with banks despite the SEC lawsuit. If you ever wanted to know where this thing's going, it's going the distance. They're not stopping. And the world is in fact waiting for them, because the world understands, and the world is, in my mind that I'm speaking right now, is the partnerships and the customers that are working with Ripple and XRP and plan to work with it in the future clearly understand that this is the new financial system, the new financial infrastructure to be built off of. They know it better than we do, because they're signing up in droves while they're in the middle of an SEC lawsuit, which just so happens to be restricting and handicapping U.S. retail investors as much as humanly possible. This is massive news what's happening here, ladies and gentlemen. Things are moving very quickly while we're having our hands tied in being able to get as much of this asset as we want in the U.S. I want to remind you right now, before I get out of here, there is the Global Investor Conference from Link2. Join that conference, ladies and gentlemen. There will be a lot of information covered there, and you're going to like every bit of it. They're going to cover industries that are represented at the conference, like clean tech, digital assets, global development, gaming, finance, and venture capital. Make sure you sign up and register for that conference. And by the way, look, I tell you, this stuff is going so fast. If you are an accredited investor and you're interested in any of these things, do not play around, because this stuff is lasting like 24, 48 hours. They had Kraken up there yesterday. It's gone already. So I wouldn't mess around if you're able to get a hold of it. Now, for those of you that aren't, and even if you are, March Madness has ensued for Unstoppable Domains. That's right, non-fungible token sale. These things are like from the .com era, but bigger is where this is going, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure you check out the links in the description box and the comment section. This is the first time they are offering these major domain names And they're going to continue to roll out more each week through the month of March. Make sure you check it out. And I'll catch all of you on the next one.